Hi everyone, I'm Eric,
And I'm Christopher.
and we're Grow For Me 5B. Today we're going to talk hydrangeas. We have almost 100 planted in our garden and over 20 varieties. So the first hydrangea we wanted to share with you is the Limelight hydrangea. We planted this hedge of limelights in 2018. They are spaced 5 feet apart on center and 4 feet from the fence. There's a total of 15 hydrangeas. Limelight hydrangeas are hardy in zones 3 through 8. They bloom on new wood, so we prune these particular hydrangeas twice a year. We prune them once in the fall to cut off these big giant blooms, because if we don't, we have these really heavy, wet, snowy winters here in upstate New York, and the snow will gather on them and it'll push them to the ground. So to protect them, I like to trim the blooms off in the fall, and then again in the spring, we go in and really shape them. So as you come down the hedge, you can see that in their 5th year now, they're reaching each other, they're touching and just forming this beautiful hedge. As we get to the center here, you're going to notice they suddenly get quite a bit smaller. We've been in touch with Stacey Urvela at Proven Winners, and it turns out we've had a little bit of mite damage this year. So I guess there's a type of mite that can affect your panicle hydrangeas, your limelights, and they come in and they'll eat your buds, and it kind of reduces the growth for the season. What we've gone ahead is we've used a Bonai product to judiciously go in and treat for mites. The other option is to cut back any affected foliage or branches and dispose of it immediately. It's so late in the season, we figured we'd treat it, see what happened, and it does look like it is now pushing new blooms to come. But this whole hydrangea hedge is now touching, filling out beautifully, and the healthy ones that weren't affected by mite damage are now taller than me, which is great. One of our favorite parts of the garden.
Here we have the group of Invincibelle wee white hydrangeas, which we recently did a bit of cutback on. As the season goes on, especially with the white hydrangeas, they do get a little bit brown from a combination of rain and too much sun, but they are a beautiful white color. As we go through the video, we're going to do a little bit of overlays of when they were in their prime. This could do with a little bit more cutback. We'll probably do that in the near future. And since they're a reblooming arborescence style hydrangea, they'll probably pop out quite a few more bright white blooms.
So another one of our panicle hydrangeas that we really love having in our garden is the vanilla strawberry hydrangea. This hydrangea has beautiful, bright white blooms that'll turn pink as fall approaches, dark, strong stems, and a really lush green foliage. It grows about 6 feet wide, 7 feet tall. It's hardy in zones 3 through 8. And this is another one that we'll prune twice. We'll prune it in the fall to prevent winter damage. We'll prune it again in the spring. We have it up in the front of the house, blocking off the electrical box for us. And it's done really well. I just love it. And what's going to happen is all these blooms are going to start turning pink from the bottom up.
The next hydrangea we want to share with you is another panicle type hydrangea that blooms on new wood, making it incredibly hardy for us here in zone 5B. This is the Firelight Tidbit. It is not fully bloomed out yet, but you can see it gets absolutely covered in these beautiful white blooms, and the color will change to an incredible pink as the season goes on.
I think there's actually a little bit of color change starting right in there.
Oh, there we go. A little bit.
Yeah.
This is Eric's favorite hydrangea in our garden, and you can see why.
Yeah, you can't beat it. I mean, it stays this small, compact size. Every inch of it gets covered in blooms. Where you don't see a bloom right now, there's buds. And it gets covered in so many flowers, and they turn this intense pink. It's a stunner.
Mm-hmm.
This is our Gatsby Pink Oakleaf Hydrangea. This hydrangea blooms on old wood and is hardy in zones 5 to 9. So when a hydrangea blooms on old wood, it means you don't really want to prune it. You want to avoid pruning as much as possible because next year's flowers are currently being formed on this new growth. So if I were to go in and start cutting all of this back, I'm going to cut off next year's blooms. I will, however, come in and deadhead it before the winter time. The Oakleaf hydrangea is hardy in zones 5 to 9 and grows about 6 to 8 by 6 to 8. You're going to want to plant it in an area that you can let it get to its full size.
And don't forget, this is a native, which is great. And the fall color on these leaves is like a mahogany burgundy leather. It's really, really beautiful.
It really is pretty. It's a stunner. And we have a smaller one in the back that we just planted last year. We can show you what a smaller size looks like. This one was probably planted in 2020. So it's about 3 years in the ground.
One of the newest hydrangeas in our garden is this Let's Dance Sky View Macrophylla exarata. It's a big leaf hydrangea, which hasn't technically or traditionally been a variety that does well for us in our zone, but Proven Winners has been breeding in some of the mountain serrata hydrangea genetics that gives it a little bit more bud hardiness. So we do have a couple blooms coming, and we're looking forward to seeing the colors on those. We'll be using soil acidifier in the future to try and bring out that beautiful sky blue color that this variety is known for.
And this will grow about 3 by 4. It's hardy in zones 4 by 9, and this is new for 2024. This year, I am really loving Annabelle hydrangeas. This is one that we planted 2 years ago. This is our Lime Ricky hydrangea. It's called Lime Ricky because it has these beautiful lime green colors. It blooms on new wood. You can cut it back in the spring and it will bloom. If deer eat it, it will bloom. If there's a late frost, it'll still bloom. It gets about 5 by 5 and is hardy in zones 3 to 8. This was planted in about 2021.
Here we have a Light-o-Day hydrangea that is not in bloom at the moment, but the foliage has this incredible variegation on it. It is a 3 by 5 specimen that is hardy in zones 5 through 9. It does die back to the ground for us every year, and in the past we have seen some blooms. We had a really late frost this year that might have put too much damage on it, but this color is incredible. It pops in the garden. There's some really strong variegation on these back pieces. That's so nice.
This right here is a Limelight Prime hydrangea. Limelight Prime is an improved version of the original Limelight. And you might be asking, well, how could they improve the original Limelight? The first thing they did was they made the stems stronger to hold up the blooms. Next, they made the color more intense, and they made the size a little bit smaller. So this one doesn't get as large as the original Limelight. This one gets about 5 by 5, maybe 5.5 by 5.5. Again, just like the original Limelight, it blooms on new wood, so you can prune it in the spring, or it can face deer damage or late frost, and it'll still bloom for you. This one was planted in 2021, so it's moderately mature, but not all the way. This right here is a little baby drift of Invincibelle Ruby. These will grow to be about 3 by 4, and they are hardy in zones 3 to 8. Again, it's an Annabelle type of hydrangea, so it blooms on new wood. It's going to have these great big mop head blooms that are beautiful ruby colored, and then they fade out to this greenish color as they age.
This is a quick fire standard, wonderful panicle hydrangea that had a beautiful robin's nest in it this year. The great story behind this specimen is when we first started gardening a few years ago, it was an end of season big box store sale. This was a $5 stick. I think it had 3 flowers on it. It was horrible looking. But with some masterful pruning and a lot of love, we have an beautiful, beautiful standard now. These traditionally get 8 by 8. We probably won't let this become an 8 by 8 lollipop. It would not be proportional, but it's beautiful. It'll be hardies in zones 3 to 8. And right now the lovely pink color has come out on it. It starts out a really nice white. And traditionally, when it's not early morning, this is covered in pollinators.
Absolutely capturing my heart this year has been the Invincibelle Spirit II hydrangea. Another arborescence type hydrangea that blooms on new wood. It grows to be about 4 by 4. It's hardy in zones 3 through 8. It's a reblooming hydrangea that blooms pink, fades to this greenish color, and then shoots out new blooms. It's amazing. We can overlay a picture of what it looked like in its prime, because as the season goes, these fade. I love it.
Flanking our garden arch, we have two Bobo hydrangeas. These are a panicle that say a bit smaller at 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. They're hardy in zones 3 to 8, and they are completely covered in beautiful white panicles that just glow, especially at night. This is fantastic when you're walking up towards the arch.
They bloom on new wood, so you can prune them in the spring without fear of losing flowers. And they will stay white longer than most panicle hydrangeas. Right here, we have a little baby Invincibelle Lace hydrangea. Invincibelle Lace is pollinator heaven, blooms on new wood, grows about 5 by 5, and is hardy in zones 3 through 8. So again, you can prune it in the spring, or it can face deer damage and still bloom for you. But these will bloom. They're supposed to be a purplish bloom. It gets covered in pollinators, and I'm excited for it to fill this space underneath our eastern redbud tree. Planted right here just last year as little courts is an Invincibelle Sublime hedge. This is a new proven winner's hydrangea, again another arborescence variety, really stealing my gardening heart this year. They bloom on new wood. They bloom a beautiful lime color, hence the name Sublime, and they have a great structure, very full, and these were only planted last fall as courts. They are fast growers. They grow about 5 by 5, and they're hardy in zones 3 through 8. I am loving this new hydrangea.
So Eric has become an arborescence fan, but my gardening heart is still firmly in the panicle hydrangea area. This is Pinky Winky, my favorite hydrangea. It gets the longest panicles you've ever seen. This was planted as a 2-gallon last year. It's doing very well. Gets 8 by 8. It's hardy in zones 3 to 8, as are most of the panicles we have. The color of the pink starts at the bottom and it'll just travel all the way up. I absolutely love this one. We have another one that's a little bit bigger, a little too hard to get to. As we travel over next to the Summerifics hibiscus there, you can see how full and lush those panicles are.
All right, one of our newest arborescens this year is Invincibelle Garnetta, and it's obviously just been eaten by a deer. And yes, we did spray liquid fence, deer and rabbit repellent. Unfortunately, it appears it did not work for us. But the good news is Invincibelle Garnetta blooms on new wood. So this has done no damage other than delay its second flush of blooms. Grows 3 by 3, hardy in zones 3 through 8.
All right, so here we have 3 Fire Fab. It's a newer panicle hydrangea, and last year we planted these as 2 gallons. It's one of the earliest panicles to bloom, if not the earliest. It gets gigantic blooms as I clamber through here, and they do turn pink. Beautiful, beautiful color in the fall. I'm excited to see how this does. This is going to be the centerpiece of our newest garden. They grow 8 by 8. They get real, real big. And you'll notice there's a lot of annuals around here. So we're not so worried about them pushing everything out.
Can I tell them a little secret about what's coming in front of the Fire Fabs?
I don't know. That might be tough.
So there's a hedge right here of rockin' deep purple salvia. This hedge is going to be coming out, and we will be replacing it, because it's an annual, with a hedge of the brand new Tough Stuff Top Fun hydrangea, which is a new variety from Proven Winners that is a mountain type hydrangea. And so it'll be this entire hedge. We're super excited. Brand new this year in our garden is the tiny Quickfire Panicle Hydrangea, the smallest panicle hydrangea from Proven Winners. Blooms on new wood, gets maximum 3 by 3, and it's hardy in zones 3 through 8. I can't wait to see how this grows and matures because it is really cute. Right here we have newly planted little lime hydrangeas. These grow about 5 by 5, are hardy in zones 3 through 8, and they bloom on new wood. You can notice that there's some leaf drop happening at the bottom. These happen to be at the bottom of our berm where we think there's a little too much water collecting. So when you see this type of leaf drop happening at the bottom, it's most likely a water issue. So we're going to try and either correct that water issue or relocate these. But this is a hedge of 5 little lime hydrangeas. Again, bloom on new wood. So no worries about not getting blooms if you cut them back.
As you may remember in our last video, we just planted a couple days ago 3 Tough Stuff hydrangeas. This is a serrata hydrangea that has the most beautiful lace cap blooms on it. They grow roughly 3 by 3. They're hardy in zones 5 to 9. And right now they are showing themselves in the purple mode. Hopefully we're able to get them to go into a blue, but frankly, however you get them, pink, purple, or blue, they're absolutely beautiful. These we will protect from deer as much as we can. They haven't seemed to find them yet, and we're just going to keep our fingers crossed that it stays that way.
The variety of Oakleaf hydrangea we have is the Gatsby Moon. I'm holding a bloom up right now because they flopped a little bit in our rain last night, but Gatsby Moon gets 8 by 8, blooms on old wood, so you don't want to prune these, but the blooms are gorgeous. Again, these will turn that gorgeous red burgundy leathery color in the fall. These were just planted last year as 3 gallons. The thing about oak leaves that you need to remember is they rarely look beautiful in their can at the nursery. Once you get them in the ground is when they really start to shine. So if you see one at the nursery and you're like, that looks okay, grab it, put it in the ground. It's going to shine for you.
The Little Lime Punch is the last hydrangea in our collection, and also one that we planted only this spring. The late frost certainly brought it back pretty hard, but it's rebounding. The blooms are coming. The few blooms that did come have already turned. One of the great things about Little Lime Punch is the absolute vivid pink that it gets, a real true Hawaiian punch color. These are going to grow to be about 5 by 5. They'll look beautiful under the contorted larch at the corner of this garden, and they are hardy in zones 3 to 8.
So full transparency, we're adding more hydrangeas. And this fall, we're going to be adding in a hedge of Invincibelle blush hydrangeas. We're going to be relocating some roses and some of these weigelas and adding in a beautiful hedge of Invincibelle blush. So we have that nice height and color throughout the season. We also have a Pinky Winky Prime on its way. We have a Let's Dance Lovable on its way, and a couple other varieties we can't wait to share with you. Thank you so much for joining us on our hydrangea talk / hydrangea tour today. If you have questions about any of the hydrangeas we shared today or some hydrangeas in your garden, just put your questions in the comments below the video and we'll do our best to answer them.
And if you have any hydrangeas that you love that you would suggest we investigate to add to our garden, absolutely put them in the comments below.
Again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me 5B.
Thanks for growing with us.